Hey everybody, this is TJR.
This is Superfan.
And say hello to my little friend, who is obviously, you're ready for Halloween, I can see. Take a look at this. Pretty cool. And yeah. Halloween, of course, is my favorite holiday. I love all the costumes and the decorations and watching all the scary movies.
Yeah.
And of course, we're still a little ways away, but we're getting close. We're getting close. Some places are already celebrating Halloween. Some neighborhoods we've been to already have Halloween decorations up
Yeah.
that we've seen. Yeah. So, anyways, though.
And a particular amusement park, theme park,
Yes, is also
been
already doing
celebrating
Halloween.
since August.
That's right, since August. Anyhow, though, so it's been a while since we've done any kind of a vinyl haul, vintage vinyl haul. That's because I've been kind of staying away from them as I'm just saving money for our trip to Seattle because I intend to do some used record shopping there. But yesterday,
It was an accident.
it was an accident, she says. Yeah, blame it on that. Yesterday, Superfan found a unique estate sale in Encino.
Yeah.
And before we talk about the records, let's just talk a little bit about the sale, the estate sale. This person who the estate sale was for was
I'm sure he's retired. He hasn't passed away.
Yeah, that was another interesting. Yeah, it was also interesting. He has not passed away. I didn't know you could have an estate sale if you hadn't passed away.
If you're downsizing your home, there are plenty of people who do it that way too.
Yeah, I always associate it with someone's passing, but yeah, it never occurred to me that you could do it otherwise. But anyways, he was having an estate sale. He is still alive, and but he was a very famous Hollywood makeup artist. What?
Award-winning.
Oh, there you go, Oscar award-winning makeup artist. Yes, who has worked on a lot of films, and he had a lot of memorabilia at this estate sale.
A lot of films, a lot of TV work.
Yeah, and even did some work for the CIA, creating makeup kits for their agents. Yeah, so very interesting. So, but there was also a ton of used old vintage vinyl there too as well. When we got there, we found out actually that the vinyl was being sold by a separate seller, who basically is invited by the people who are doing the estate sale, by the companies doing that, to set up tables and sell his vintage vinyl. Because it draws in people.
It drew us.
It drew us in, yeah. And it draws in more customers. And I guess the estate sales have found that this is a big draw. This gentleman that was selling the records, we talked to him, and he was just telling us, this is my personal collection. He was saying everything that I buy, I've bought used. Everything here is the stuff that I've bought used. Most of it I bought on eBay or other places, he said. And I only go for the
very high-end, high-quality.
Yeah, as far as the vinyl is concerned, very high-end, high-quality, the vinyl, first pressings, that sort of thing. And so
a lot of the people that were shopping the vinyl knew him.
And had been to other estate sales that he was selling at. Yeah. And so he and I exchanged information, and he said, you can contact me, and I'll let you know when I'm going to be at another estate sale. And if there's anything you're looking for, you can let me know. But apparently he has a huge collection of LPs, and he's starting to let some of it go because he has so much.
Yeah, he had 12 book boxes full.
Huge boxes, yeah, filled with records. So we did some shopping, and we thought we'd show you what we picked up. There were definitely some interesting finds at this one. First, Superfan picked up 2 records that we're going to just show. These are her 2 picks. The first one here. There you go, little guy. It's the same color as you. The first
shade of green,
one is XTC English Settlements. And I like XTC. I've got a couple of their albums, but I've never heard of this one. This must be kind of
This is early 80s. 81.
Okay, early album. Maybe it's kind of rare. I don't know, but I've never heard of this one.
Yeah, it has No Thugs in Our House. It had
what else?
Ball and Chain, and I can't think of anything.
That's okay.
Else. But
okay.
Yeah, it was.
And this is Superfan's other pick here, which was a vintage Mary Poppins Disney album.
It's like a
And-
storybook thing, I think. I haven't actually opened it to
Yeah.
look at it yet.
But, you know,
But
if you know Superfan, she's a huge Disney fan, huge Disney collector. And,
one of the tracks on there, it
yeah.
seems like it might be like demo versions
Uh-huh.
of the songs. One of them was sung by Richard Sherman.
Who's, you know, co-author of the, you know,
A couple
co-songwriter.
other people involved with the film
Yeah, interesting.
performing the songs on there. So I don't think it was. I think it's more of a storybook thing, and then they just kind of used the demos that they had. Maybe.
Okay. We'll see. I'm sure you'll find out once you open it up and play it. Yeah. But those were your two records, and then of course I picked up the following here. First is Eagles, The Long Run. I of course have been slowly getting the Eagles albums. For a long time, the only thing I really had on CD by them was just Hotel California and One of These Nights. And for some reason, I keep running into, you know, affordable, good copies of their catalog. And so I've almost got all the Eagles albums, basically.
Yeah.
I've almost got them all in vinyl. I think this is probably like one of the last ones I need to get. Yeah, this was, of course, the last one before Hell Freezes Over. And I think this is the last one I have to get. But yeah, you know, like I said, these were in nice shape. And I did look at a lot of the vinyl actual record before I actually, you know, purchased it while I was there. And everything I looked at, just the LPs themselves, you know, looked great.
Yeah.
There are some in this here where they were not as expensive as they might normally be because the covers maybe weren't in the best of shape, but the LPs look fantastic, you know. And for me, that is the most important thing. But yeah, Eagles, The Long Run. And let's see, next we have Heart, Dreamboat Annie. I'll be replacing these covers. This is what they were sold in, but I'll be replacing these here with nicer sleeves. But I used to have this on LP way back in the day. You know, but here we go. It's been a long time since I've actually seen this LP here. Here's that gatefold interior, the lyric sleeve, very nice. And yeah, this is Heart's first album. I have a couple of the vintage 70s albums on vinyl, but I didn't have this one. I've been wanting to look for this one here. Been saying if I find one that looks, you know, looks pretty good, I'll go for it. And you know, reasonably priced. Some of these were more expensive. You're gonna, you know, I'll talk about them, but most of these ones here were the lesser expensive ones. Rod Stewart, Never a Dull Moment. I had already picked up two of his. There's like these. The first three albums are very acoustic based. I really do like them. Gasoline Alley, Every Picture Tells a Story, and this one, Never a Dull Moment. And so this was the third one that I needed amongst those first three albums. Actually, there might have been one before these. I could be wrong about that. But yeah. And again, like I said, this was one of the less expensive ones. Just thought I'd show you this sleeve here with the advertisements for their albums from Mercury Records, it says here. This was a cutout, as you can see, so it was a promo copy. But the sleeve is really nice. This is really clean white paper here. Record, of course, I looked at this one. This is one of the ones I looked at when I was actually at the sale. And I thought, you know, yeah, it looks really good. You know, these records look really good. This is one that I picked up for the first time not too long ago at Amoeba, actually. And I even did a video about this album separately, just the album itself recently. I'll leave a link for it if you'd like to look at it here. But Days of Future Past by the Moody Blues. And, you know, this is one that I did find at Amoeba. And it was, I thought, a pretty good copy. And it had some, amount of crackle, maybe a little more than I would have liked, but still I thought it was listenable. But I looked at this one here. I looked at the actual record itself. I'm not going to pull it out here. But I looked at the actual record, and I just said, wow, you know, this looks really, really good. And I said, okay, I'm going to just upgrade, because this was not that expensive to do. So I decided to just upgrade and get this here. There we go. And little guy, I'm gonna just put you there like that.
Back to Rod Stewart, there's an old raincoat that won't ever let you down.
That's right. There was that one. I've never really, don't know anything about that one. But those other three I really, like I said, remember enjoying, and that I like the acoustic sound of them. I should listen to that other one, but you're right. There was one before all of them. I think also Never a Dull Moment, Gasoline Alley, and Every Picture Tells a Story. Visually, when you look at the covers, they thematically kind of go together. Whereas that one, the cover doesn't really look like it belongs, but musically I have no idea what it looks like, but what it sounds like, I should say.
Well, that was 69. That started it all. Then came Gasoline Alley in 1970.
Mm-hmm.
Every Picture Tells a Story in 71, and Never a Dull Moment in 72.
Okay, so yeah, so those were the three Rod Stewart albums that I wanted to get on vinyl. I should look into that one that came prior. I would think that it's musically in the same vein, but I would have to see here. This one here is one I've been wanting to hear for a while here. Joe Jackson. I've never actually heard this album in its entirety. Night and Day, but I'm certainly familiar with the hits off of it here. I'm not going to pull this out because the actual inner sleeve here is not in great shape. I'm going to replace it with a good, nice inner sleeve. But the rest of it looks fine. Yeah, I'm familiar with the hits. And this was probably one of the cheapest ones that I got. And again, it was just because it was just really inexpensive that I picked it up. If you're enjoying this video so far, please remember to hit like, hit subscribe, and hit the bell notification icon so you never miss a video. If you also would like to get exclusive weekly videos not available on this channel, you might want to consider becoming a patron supporter. Go to patreon.com/TJR the original. If you can't be a patron supporter, we understand. You can leave a one-time super thanks for any video that we post here on the channel. Let's get back to the record haul. Here is an album that I have talked about. Hey, little guy, don't fall over.
You knocked him over.
Jethro Tull, A Passion Play. I've always loved this album, and I have the CD remastering, which I think sounds absolutely fantastic. I've also got the Steven Wilson remix on LP, but I've been looking for a vintage, 70s pressing of this album that sounded good. I had in the past picked up one. It was like in one of those cheap bins. Took it home and it wasn't acceptable. It just had way too much snap and crackle in it, and but I picked it up out of the cheap bin. I looked at this one. It looked really nice. This comes with the original playbook inside, and I looked at the record. The record looked really nice too. So I was like, okay, maybe this one I'll get one that actually doesn't all that sounds good, and so hopefully this will be good. But yeah, Jethro Tull. And again, this was also one of the less expensive ones. This one never really draws a lot of money, but I think it's an absolutely fantastic album. And I like it actually better than Thick as a Brick, which I know some people will say is blasphemy. Yes, Relayer. And I had been considering getting this album, the Rhino high fidelity pressing of it. I had been considering it, but it came out the same time as, I think it was the Bad Company debut album, high fidelity pressing. And it was like, those things are so expensive.
Yeah.
It was just like, I can't buy two in 1 month. It's just too much money to ask, especially with their shipping. So it was like, I'm just going to get the Bad Company one. And I thought maybe I'll get this one down the line. This was listed, he did tell me this was a first pressing, and he had these little stickers that, on the sleeves here that said, first pressing or whatever you needed to know about them. But this one here, again, I looked at the record, looked really nice. Like I said, and I just thought, okay, I'll get this. This is way cheaper than that Rhino high fidelity pressing. I'll get this instead of the Rhino high fidelity pressing. And I honestly have never really listened to this album. This is not one I'm familiar with, but I've been saying to myself, you need to listen to more of Yes's albums from their classic period. I do have a nice handful of them, but part of it is that I was already familiar with some of the tracks because I'd heard some of them on radio. This one I've never heard anything off of, and that's probably because the tracks just aren't at all radio ready. They're I think it's like one track per side or something like that. Maybe one side has two tracks, but they're incredibly long for rock and pop. And I know it's prog rock, but you know what I mean. But yeah, none of this got radio airplay back in the day, so I'm really unfamiliar with this, but I'm gonna give it a listen. And
will
again,
be now.
not too expensive. Yeah, I'm going to listen to it now. Here was one that I've been wanting to get on vinyl, but it's pretty expensive. Van Halen. It says here US pressing. Now, this one the cover has a lot of problems here. It's really messed up here. And he told me about this. He said, now this is really messed up. But he said the vinyl, he said, is fantastic. And I looked at the vinyl.
It was discounted because of the cover.
Yeah, it was discounted for that reason. And I've seen people asking a lot more for Van Halen one than what this was. I remember when I first looked at the price, I was like, wow, that's really cheap. And then he explained to me about the cover and said, this is really messed up here. It's really bad. So he told me about all the damage it has, and he said that's why it's so cheap, is because of the cover. But he said the vinyl's great. I liked the vinyl; it looked really good to me too. So I'm like, okay, cool, sold. I mean, I always say that's the most important thing. The same here with this one here. This is Frank Zappa. We're only in it for the money, and this one also I was introduced to this album a long time ago. A friend loaned me an LP copy, and I really liked it a lot. Later on, I would find it on CD, but it was a remix of it. And finally, I found the actual original mix on CD and got that. And I've been looking for a while now to get this on LP, but it's usually pretty expensive. This one here, the cover definitely has problems. But again, I pulled out the LP, I looked at it, and it was just clean as a whistle. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Really beautiful. It's like, usually if the cover's in bad shape, the LP, that's an indication of how well they treated the LP inside. And I found that to be true, but in these cases here where, the cover's been messed up, the LP looks really good. And so, yeah, I'm really happy that I could finally find a copy of this. Like I said, the most important thing to me is just how good is the condition of the LP more than anything else. Everything else is a plus after that. So finally here we have 2 US Beatles albums. I originally had this version of Rubber Soul when I was a teenager. I originally had this album here when I was growing up with, in the 70s. This was the US version, of course. And I have not really been in much of a market for US ones because I prefer the Capitol release, not the Capitol, the UK Parlophone releases. But with all this talk about the Capitol albums recently with the box set that's coming out, in the fall, I decided that I would go ahead and give this one a listen again. This was one of the more expensive ones, and I almost hesitated on getting it until Superfan reminded me that, these are really easy to resell. If you really decide you don't want it anymore, these are very easy to just resell again. On eBay. Here's, of course, the original sleeve. And, of course, this doesn't have all the songs that the UK version does. But I thought, maybe I might even do a video. Because, and just kind of discuss, the sound quality. It's been a while since I've heard this. I did, not too long ago, a few years back, someone loaned me their copy of the Beatles, the Capitol albums on CD, the Volume 1. And I listened to some of them and I thought they sounded terrible. Just terrible in comparison to the 2009 remasters. And both the stereo and the mono, 2009 remasters that were on CD, I thought they sounded terrible. But I'm curious to hear this. And like I said, if I really don't like this, I know there are collectors who just want them, who just want to get them. They're not really, some of them are listening to them for nostalgia. I realize that, but some just simply want them because they're collectors, and that's fine. I have nothing, we all collect things to one degree or another. And finally, we have this Sgt. Pepper. This was a first U.S. pressing, and none of the inserts, but the record looks great. Looks really, really nice. The cover is, it's not too bad. It's got some issues, but
it's 60 years old.
Yeah, but still, like I said, for the price, I was like, okay, this certainly looks worth checking out and listening to it. And listening, like I said, it's not going to be the same. I'm sure it can't be the same as listening to a British first pressing.
Sure not.
I'm sure not, but but I'll give this one just give it a listen and see how it compares. And I might even talk about this and the Rubber Soul one, because there's been so much talk about the US albums now that this box set is coming out, which I'm going to pass on, unless I maybe after it comes out on streaming, which I have a feeling it will, unless I'm really impressed with the audio quality of it. But I don't know, not based on what I know so far. Anyways, though, but yeah, so we're going to end with this, with Sgt. Pepper, the Beatles, US, and that was a vintage vinyl haul. Earlier in the week, I mentioned that I was working on a video essay about the 10-year anniversary of the year, or that time when U2 gave away their new album for free to the internet, and the internet got really angry at them for it. It's an interesting story. I was, of course, there when it happened, so was Superfan, and I've been doing a lot of research into it. I've rewritten the script a couple times. I keep finding out more information, and then I think, okay, I've got to, rethink the script, because this changes, the focus of the story, and these are elements that need to be talked about. So it's been taking me a little longer than I expected. I was hoping to have it out this weekend. It's not going to happen. I'm shooting for next weekend, and so hopefully you'll stay tuned for that. I think you're going to find that one to be a really interesting, fascinating video. Thank you so much for stopping by. Really do appreciate you taking a little time out of your day to just talk about music here. And let me know what's going on with you. Let me know what recent purchases you've made, whether it's vinyl, whether it's CD, vintage, new, it doesn't matter. And as always, it doesn't matter what format you listen on. Vinyl, CD, tape, whatever, it doesn't matter. So long as you're listening, so long as you're enjoying.
If it makes you happy, it doesn't matter how you hear it.
Exactly. And we'll see you all in the next video, everybody. Take care. Bye.
Bye.